Hey, boys and girls, Ken Smith, KenSmithFishing.com. Say hi, Sammy. Uh, Normally, I post my videos on YouTube, and I'm going to post this one on Facebook today, mainly because I want to get some input on this. Actually, real quick, before we go there, I just pulled up on Outlaw Outdoors next weekend. Sam, next weekend's tournament schedule on Rayburn. So Friday is the Makeup Texas Team Trail Tournament down at Humphreys Pavilion. I will not be at that tournament. I've got a commitment on Friday for work that I can't get there. Saturday, there's an Angler's Quest tournament out of Lakeview. There's a Media Bass tournament. There's a Rayburn Summer Nights tournament. I don't know what that is, but that's interesting. I may look into that. And then, of course, Saturday is the originally scheduled Texas Team Trail tournament. I might fish that. I didn't get down there this weekend. We had some commitments here in town. Sarah had a funeral she needed to attend. So we were not on the lake this weekend. I doubt we'll fish that. And then Sunday is the Angler's Quest individual tournament at a Lakeview, and then the Poor Man's Tournament Sunday evening. So a lot going on this next weekend at Rayburn. But what I wanted to bring up today, and I was looking for some input from some anglers. So as I went through the results for the FLW Tour tournament up on Chickamauga yesterday, I saw my buddy Jim Tutt was first place out of the money, and I know everybody who's tournament fished has at some point been first guy out of the money. So I sent Jim a text message and I said, hey, keep your chin up. We've all been there. It's still a good tournament, good points for you. And my phone rang a couple minutes later, and it was Jim, and he said, it's worse than it sounds. He said, I had a dead fish. And he had a dead fish that the penalty, which is one of the smaller penalties out there on the FLW tour, is 4 ounces for a dead fish, and it cost him a $9,500 or a $10,000 check. And Jim and I started talking, and I'm not sure. And by the way, I've talked a lot about Outlaw Outdoors, and one of the things I like about Outlaw is they're thinking out of the box. For example, with their Sweet 16 tournament, you catch 16 pounds, you get a check. Or my favorite that I don't get to fish, which is oh shoot, what's it called? The tournament where average Joe's, where you can't fish it if you've won over $1,500 on Rayburn in the last year, which keeps most of us guys who fish it all the time out. So guys who are average Joes that have a job and maybe work on weekends and don't get to tournament fish all the time, get to fish and be competitive. I think those are brilliant. And as Jim and I talked, can I help you? Sam really wants to be in this video. If y'all don't remember, this is Samantha Ray, aka Sammy Ray, because we found her at the boat ramp at Sam Rayburn, and we brought her back to Dallas to help her find a good home. And quite obviously, Sammy Ray's found a good home. But Jim and I started talking, and so back in the day when the whole idea of a dead fish penalty was created, it was probably, in my mind, it was as much a little bit to keep guys from cheating and bringing a bunch of dead fish in, but also because some guys didn't take care of their equipment. So, and because of that, you couldn't have a guy bringing 5 fish on a stringer up there that were all dead, and we want our resource to renew. By the way, I've heard some scary statistics about the number of fish that are being kept on Toledo Bend and on Rayburn and Eaton, and I'm trying to get an interview with a guy who can tell us more about that, and maybe how we can fix that, or my concerns regarding that, and I'll get to that in a later video. But to me anymore, nobody wants a dead fish, right? But it happens. In the summertime or even in the winter on Rayburn, you catch fish really deep, and fish can turn up on you and die. I have caught a number of fish where you just hook them in the tongue. There's nothing you can do about that, and that fish will be dead in 10 or 15 minutes. And that is not the angler's fault. Look, I've got a very nice Ranger bass boat with, that I leave the live well running all the time. In the summertime, I put ice in the live well box. In the live well, I've got an oxygenator. It's a hard word for me to say. In the box, all trying to keep my fish alive. So a lot of times when those fish die, it's not my fault. It's not your fault. It just happens. We've already got a big penalty in that in most of these tournaments, I think everything that I fish, you can't cull a dead fish. So if you got a 2-pounder in there that turns upside down and dies on you, you're stuck with that fish. So Jim and I were talking, and Jim's idea, and I think it's a really sharp one, or a great idea to me, is maybe rather than having a penalty of pounds, it's a fine, right? If you break certain rules in Major League Baseball or the NFL or NHL or on the PGA Tour, you get fined. Why not make that the case here? And Jim's idea, which I think is brilliant, is, for example, if you have a dead fish in a tournament on Sam Rayburn or here in Texas, that your fine goes to the Texas Park and Wildlife, to the people who actually stock the lake, and I think on the tour level, maybe a $250 fine, even a $100 fine. And I also think it wouldn't be a bad idea to give a guy a choice. You can get the 4 ounces or you can pay the fine. You got to make that decision maybe before the tournament. But as Jim and I talked about it, this was a very expensive dead fish to him. It was a, almost a $10,000 dead fish. But my thoughts to him were, what if you missed the FLW Cup by a point? And if you think about that, is it fair that something that is completely out of the angler's control alters their year and possibly their career? Same thing in the Forest Wood Cup. A guy could have a dead fish, lose 4 ounces, and lose $300,000 and not be the Forest Wood Cup champion or the Bassmaster Elite Series champion or whatever else, because of a dead fish that is beyond his control. We've all had fish bite a crankbait so deep that you tear gill plates and those fish die on you. That's not your fault. A bass tournament is to determine the guy who can catch the 5 biggest fish for each of the days of the tournament. And we all have as good of equipment as we can possibly have to keep those fish alive. So I'm really curious. If you guys know tour guys, I would love for you to share this video on Facebook. Let's hear their input on this, and I would love y'all's input on this as well. It just doesn't seem fair to me that a guy has a tournament-changing loss of weight, or a year-changing, or a career-changing. If you were listening to the footage or to the live footage this week, Peter T was talking about, I think it was Peter T talking about this, somebody was talking about the fact that you can't screw up even one day in the Angler of the Year race. Well, again, that 4 ounce penalty on a dead fish could be the difference between you winning Angler of the Year and not winning Angler of the Year, and that doesn't seem fair to me. It's different if guys intentionally didn't take care of their fish, and I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but we all do everything we can to take care of those fish. So share this and let's talk about this, and maybe this is something that if we get enough groundswell behind this, we can start making tournament directors think differently about this. Even in Bass Champs locally or the Texas Team Trail, I would in many cases rather say before the tournament, I'll pay $100 penalty to Texas Park and Wildlife if I have a dead fish than you charge me a half a pound, or some of our tournaments are even a pound for a dead fish. Let us make that choice right up front, and let's support the people who take care of our fish when we do kill a fish, as opposed to, in my opinion, overly penalizing the angler for something that's outside of their control. So I hope you have some thoughts on this, and I hope you share them with everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and I have a Rayburn report up from yesterday on my channel, which is kensmithfishing.com. I'll have another one up tomorrow, and then later this week also on kensmithfishing.com, and also that's my YouTube, where you can find me on YouTube. I'll have a video up about how to find fish on using your Humminbird Electronics mapping, which is, I think, the best mapping in the business. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll share. Thanks, guys.